Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Hildebrand. For those of you that know me, some of you might not know me very well yet, maybe just see me on Facebook. But I am a wellness advocate with doTERRA Essential Oils. And I'm really excited to talk to you today about emotions and emotional health. And I think you all would agree with me that this is a very important topic these days, and I think becoming more and more important as time goes on. So lots of us struggle with our emotions and keeping those in check. And I think that those of you that have struggled with your emotions have realized that it does affect your health. Maybe you don't really understand why. And today we want to talk a little bit about that, how this happens, like why do emotions affect your health? And then what can you do about it? What are some really practical tools that you can have that will help you? So a lot of times in my webinars and stuff, I do some research with different people that I respect and I feel like have some really good information on the subject. And one of those people is Dr. Joseph Mercola. If you don't follow Dr. Mercola online, and I'm not saying that I agree with 100% of everything he said, I haven't heard 100% of everything he said, but he is a great authority on natural, all things natural, and I do follow him. And he has this quote on his website, which I thought was really interesting. He says, "I've often said that you cannot divorce your health from your emotions. Every feeling you have affects some part of your body, and stress can wreak havoc on your physical health, especially if you're not exercising or eating right, as both of these can help keep stress in check in the first place." So he says previous studies have linked stress to lowered immune system function, increased blood pressure and cholesterol levels, altered brain chemistry, altered blood sugar levels, and hormonal balance. Okay, so all of those are just results, a lot of times, of emotional issues that are going on. It has also, he says, been found to increase the rate at which tumors grow. Isn't that interesting? That is directly related to our emotions. And I'm sure most of you, if you've known anybody that has had cancer, sometimes they'll talk about the will to live, right, that patients have and how that plays a factor in whether or not they get better or whether or not they don't get better, right? So he says one of the reasons for this has to do with the way the biological stress response promotes inflammation in your body. So there is actually a biological response that your body is making to these emotions, that your body is having to these emotions, and it is affecting your body with stress or whatever. Okay, so, oh, Suzanne, I'm so sorry. She could not hear. So I don't know if she's going to go back in and do that. Okay. So I want to tell you today that the class premise that I am coming from in this webinar is based on the fact that I believe that man is a three-part being, okay? I believe that we are all created in the image of God. I believe God is a Trinity, that he is God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, and I believe when he created us in his image, meaning that he created us body, soul, and spirit. So there's three parts to you, but they're all connected. And if all three of those are not acting in harmony with each other, it creates dis-ease, okay? So the word ease, dis-ease, okay? When all three of those are not in harmony with each other. So 1 Thessalonians 5:23 says that we are all created with three basic parts, okay? This is what it says. "And the God of peace himself sanctify you wholly, and may your spirit and soul and body be preserved complete without blame at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ." So he's talking about all of man right there, right? He wants it to be preserved complete. All three of those things, not just your body, not just your spirit, not just your soul, okay? So our soul, even though we can't see it, it's just as real as our body, okay? And by our soul, I am talking about things that we experience in our minds, okay? What we would call the psychological realm. This is our will, our emotions, all the things in our mind. And the word for soul in the Greek is psyche, okay? So this is where we think, this is where we reason, we consider, And this is where we have emotions, okay? Our emotions are coming from these areas. Our mind, emotion, and will make up our soul, which is our personality, okay? But we have more than just a body and a soul. We also have a part that's deeper, and that's our spirit, okay? And excuse me a minute, I want to change pages here. That's the deepest and most hidden part of our being, and that's with our spirit that we can connect with our Creator, okay? So there's no other creature on the face of the earth that was created like this except for us, okay? We have been created so that we can have fellowship with God. So the purpose today of the webinar is, number one, I want to show you the science behind emotions and essential oils, and then I want to give you some practical tools and habits so that you can start having healthy body chemistry and you can create emotional wellness steps that you can put into practice in your home, okay? So that's the purpose. So does that sound good to everybody? I can't see anyone. That sound good? Okay, awesome. Everybody on board with that? So who's ready to feel good more often? Awesome. Okay. So I am going to share my screen with you and let you look at, this is a handout that I use. And I hope, can everybody see the screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Yes? Okay. All right. So your body is made up of intelligent cells, okay? This is an awesome creation of God. And you are actually wired by the Creator to be able to restore your health, okay? God put specific mechanisms in place in our body that our body's able to heal. So when you get cut or when you get hurt, right, you don't have to keep looking at it and telling it to get better all the time, right? Your body's wired to do that. Your body is made with healing mechanisms in it, okay? So all of the healing is a process of your spirit, your mind, and your body communicating at a level, okay? So whether or not you experience healing in your body and wellness is a result of whether this spirit, this mind and body are communicating correctly, okay? So to learn the language of your body, you've got to know what emotions are and what they are communicating, all right? So half of the therapy, if you could say, if you ever go to somebody for therapy for emotional health or you're struggling in a particular area or whatever, they're going to teach you how to identify the emotion that you're experiencing. A lot of times we don't know what it is. We don't know why we're so out of whack or what is going on, right? We just feel totally out of balance. So being able to just identify what the emotion is half of the therapy itself, because once you know what it is, then you can act and do something to change it, okay? So let's talk about our emotions. So an emotion is basically an information carrying molecule, okay? So imagine this little thing, okay? You can over here where it has this picture of the cell here on the wall and it's got that little, looks like a Y coming off of it, okay? So emotions are information carrying molecules that bind to and they react with our cell receptors. So see those little antennas coming off the cell? These are cell receptors, okay? And they're like our eyes and ears on our body. We're always looking and we're listening, right, for information that we can take into our body. Well, our cell has these receptors on it and it's looking for information. What can I take in and give a message to the cell that is going to tell my body how to act, how to function, how to behave? Okay, so it's looking for these things. And mainly what those cell receptors take in are chemicals. So because emotions in their very smallest and most basic form, they are chemical molecules. Okay, so you can see in this picture, the cell is receiving molecules. Okay, so this is going to impact your energy level, your behavior, and your mood when it receives these chemicals. Okay, so this is fascinating to discover how these emotions can really affect our health. All right, now, because our emotions are chemicals, they're not just limited to our mind. Okay, emotions flow, they're processed throughout the whole entire body. science tells us that there are what they believe 3 complex processing functions in the mind. One's in the heart and one is in the gut. You can see that right there in the thing. What they call these the 3 brains. Okay, so when you receive a chemical message of an emotion into your cell, you process it in 3 areas. So you process it in the mind, you process it in the heart, and you process it in the gut. Okay, so how many of you, after worrying about something for a long period of time, you get a headache? Anybody? All right, I cannot see y'all's faces here. I don't do good talking to myself. I feel like I'm talking to the wall. Suzanne, hello. Can anybody relate to that? I mean, you have literally worried about it so much that you have a headache. Has anybody experienced that? Yes? Okay, how about you are so nervous and anxious about something that you get a stomach ache? Anybody experience that? Or you are so, literally, have you ever experienced grief or heartache or a traumatic situation in a way that you get chest pain, tightness of chest, you have a hard time breathing? Anybody had that happen to them? Okay, some of you may have experienced panic attacks. That's kind of how they feel, right? So all of these are just showing you how those are related, how our emotions are being processed in these different areas, and how that it causes a physical reaction. Okay, so one way to familiarize yourself with the connection between your body or this part of you that's processing these emotions or putting out these emotions is to feel which parts of your body are stimulated or shut down when you're experiencing a particular emotion. Okay, so in the picture here, well, let me say this first. Proverbs 17:22. Okay, it says, "A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones." Right there, even the Bible itself is talking about the direct correlation between your emotions and how it affects the body. Okay, and there's multiple other verses. That's just one. You can look it up later if you want to. That was Proverbs 17:22. But your 3 brains will process your life experiences, and your body will react to that. Okay, how you're processing that. So I love this because I feel like, okay, so I'm having an emotion. Do I have the power to do something about it, right? To change it, to stop that reaction from happening in my body. So let's look at this lady down here at the bottom, okay? So every life experience that we have, this is just a simulation of kind of what happens. So you're having a life experience. Here this woman's having a life experience. How many of you ever felt like this before? Okay, here she's got the baby. She's trying to talk on the phone. Who knows? She's probably hearing bad news, or somebody's, complaining to her. She's hearing about a family situation. The pet is jumping up on her, has got needs at the same time. So this moment in this woman's life is immediately recorded in her subconscious mind. Okay, so you can see how the brain begins to send a message to her, right? That it says here, I have to figure this out. Her brain's like, okay, do I put the baby down? Do I tell these people I can't talk? What do I do? Like, the brain is trying to figure out an avenue of, how do I get out of this, right? I don't like this feeling. If you'll look at her heart, it says here, I feel overwhelmed. Okay, so she begins to feel stress, right, about the situation. And then her gut reinforces it by, oh, I'm stuck. Okay, I don't know how to get out of this. So when you have a life experience and you have these emotions, the body will have a reaction to it. Okay, so she may have head tension. She may get conflicted feelings, right, in her heart, not for sure what to do. Okay, boundaries, not sure where to have the boundaries in her life. And then she gets an unsettled gut, or she gets an upset stomach. I don't know about y'all. I don't know which one of these affects you guys the most. I'm a total gut person. So if I'm upset, I know it because my stomach is just churning, right? I've got a terrible stomach ache for whatever, it is. So this is an obvious sign to me that I'm not processing emotions correctly in my body. I'm allowing them, right, to have rule over me. And I'm not taking these thoughts captive. So when we think and we feel something at the same time, a new belief is created. Okay? So in this thing, you can see it's kind of got a picture of her head opening up, and she's watering this thought that she's having. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'm overwhelmed, right? And so every time that you have an emotion and you feel yourself reacting physically, you have to recognize that you are either cultivating a seed or feeding a weed. Okay? You're allowing something to grow, or you're putting in a new seed and allowing a new thought to take its place. Okay? So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But what is something that you have been telling yourself for a while, or you've been feeling for a while? Okay? Does anybody want to share something or talk about something that, you don't have to get too personal, but what's something you have felt or you've been telling yourself for a while? Getting everybody's just looking at me. Okay, nobody wants to share. I'll tell you something that I am feeling. So I am in the process of moving. And so as I have all these things coming at me, we're trying to close down a business, we're trying to sell a house, we're trying to look for a house, we're trying to decide exactly where we're going to go to church. I mean, just all these things are coming into play. I am feeling in my mind overwhelmed, anxious, okay, stress for sure. And so and as I'm feeling these things, I'm not sleeping well, okay, because my stomach's upset. I'm not sleeping well, and I'm taking these thoughts on. So I'm just giving you an example of how I am feeling. So the belief that I keep reinforcing, that I find myself reinforcing, is that this is too much. I can't handle this, right? So I keep reinforcing that to myself. Well, what happens in our brains, scientists tell us that when you experience something over and over again, even just once or twice, it begins to create a groove in your brain, okay? So when you have that emotion again, when that similar experience begins to come up, those emotions will travel right across that groove and go right back down to where they have been. So I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. I can't handle this. It just goes back down that groove. It doesn't know what else to do. You've created that. Let's imagine like it's like a wagon wheel, right? Just going over the brain over and over again. Well, scientists tell us that you can create a new groove, okay? So we have to learn how to process those differently. So for me, that looks like scripture, okay? So for me, how would I replace that negative thought with a positive one is I can do all things through Christ. So when I begin to think those thoughts of I can't do this, I'm overwhelmed, I can do all things through Christ. And as I think those new thoughts, and I'm having those same emotions, right, of overwhelm, but I begin to replace that positive, that negative thought with a positive one, I can create a new groove in my brain, right? And make that the habit of my brain to go down rather than this other one, okay? But honestly, it takes discipline, and it takes practicing it, right? Every time that we say it out loud, and that we purposely, intentionally train our minds to go down a different groove, we are creating better health for ourselves. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that too. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen here. Let me see if I can. Okay, I can see you guys much better. All right, so would y'all agree, just what we've looked at so far, would you agree that emotions and health are related? Yes? Nod your heads. Yes, they're related. Okay. So let's look on the healthy side, or on the physical side of it, and how can emotions play, or excuse me, essential oils play a factor in this, and how can they help us better our health? Okay. So let me just tell you 3 things that essential oils can do. Number 1, they support healthy cell function. Okay. So remember that cell receptor that's looking for a message? When it gets a good message, it's going to behave differently, right? So essential oils are chemicals, okay, that can actually give a good message to our cell, make it behave differently, okay? Essential oils anchor healthy biochemistry. Okay, now what that means is the chemistry of your body, the makeup of it, it can be changed. We can change it, okay? And sometimes we think that when we're experiencing this emotion over and over again, well, I'm just lazy. I'm just undisciplined. And we look at it as a character flaw, right? But the truth is a lot of times this is a biochemical deficiency in the brain. Okay. And there's lots of factors that can play into how these happen and how these are created in the brain. But I want to tell you all that it's not always a character flaw. Okay. Most of the time it's not a character flaw. Most of the time it's things that have happened to us in our past. Diet can affect it. Not drinking enough water. I mean, there's so many things that can affect our thoughts. Okay. All right. And then essential oils can promote physical and emotional detox. All right. So let's talk about how. Number one, and I've mentioned this already, but essential oils are chemically based. All right. So the receptor cells will look for them, and they are friendly to the body's chemistry. So when you use something that is chemical, let's say that you're taking a drug to support your emotions. Okay. A drug alters our chemical makeup. Okay. It alters it. So it's going to change it. Whereas a natural product will restore your body's natural chemistry. Okay. So you have to look at it as altering or restoring. They're two different things. When you use something synthetic, it's mimicking what something natural can actually do. Okay. So it's mimicking it. It's not acting as the natural thing would. Okay. And then when you use something that is chemical, it's not capable of being selective. Okay. So what that means is it's not capable of just doing this one little thing that you want it to do. It's doing all these other things that it can't control. Okay. Whereas a natural thing is capable of being selective. It's capable of just getting rid of the bad and leaving the good. You can kind of liken it to chemotherapy, right? People take chemotherapy and yeah, it kills cancer cells, but what does it do in the meantime? It kills everything else good in its path, right? So this is why if you can switch and start using more natural things, you're going to act in a more restorative manner, in a more selective manner in restoring your health, as opposed to using something that's synthetic. Okay. All right. So the second thing is, so first was essential oils are chemically based, so they're friendly to your body's biochemistry. Number two, essential oils are molecularly dense. All right. Now I'm going to explain to you what that means. If something is dense, it means the denser something is, the more of it you can fit into a small space. Okay. So I don't know if y'all know how dense essential oils are. Okay. But how little is a cell? I can't do a little thing of it, right? You got to look under a microscope to see it. So how can I get inside that cell? How can I get something inside that cell? It's got to be dense enough and small enough to be able to get inside that cell. So 1 drop of oil equals 40 million trillion molecules. 40 million trillion molecules. Can't even comprehend that number. Okay. I don't know how much that is. But when we're talking about getting inside the cell, because essential oils can go inside the cell because they're lipophilic, they can cross the cell membrane and get into that cell. They're molecularly dense. 40 million trillion molecules going into a cell. That's pretty powerful. Okay. All right. Number 3. Nope, that was just number 2. Sorry. Okay. So when you use an essential oil, they can service every cell of the body in a matter of minutes. So they can be received by the cell, they can deliver a new message to the cell, and they can service every cell of the body in a matter of minutes. So essential oils are a great option for emotions, okay? All right, so would you agree with me that essential oils promote physical and emotional reactions within the body? Does anybody have this experience? Anybody? You've used an essential oil. Not only did it help you physically, but you felt like also emotionally you were getting benefits from it as well. Okay. All right. So there are 3 ways that we can use essential oils to have healthy emotions. All right. Number 1, we can use them to shift our mood. Now, I know you guys probably already know this and you've heard this. We've talked about this in classes, but smell is the fastest way to affect your mood. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go into great science about this, but the limbic system when an essential oil hits that limbic system, it sends chemicals throughout the body, okay? And literally has the ability to change your thought patterns. So again, you're talking about chemicals, right? And because this limbic system in our inside of our nose is our emotional brain, it can change thought patterns. So that's one. So what are some oils that we can use this way? Okay, balance. Now, balance is made of trees, okay, a lot of pine. Did y'all know that balance also has frankincense in it? Okay, so when we think of balance, we're thinking of calming and grounding. It's a tree. And I want to relate all of the oils. I want you to think about them as where they grow in the earth, where they are from. It's all directly related to how they service the body as well. So balance is very, very great for helping scattered anxious feelings and calming the central nervous system. Okay. Serenity. How many of you have used Serenity? Serenity has lavender in it, as well as a host of other oils, but it has lavender in it. Serenity is great for calming anxious feelings, all that scatteredness. And I've experienced these two oils numerous times for this particular issue and know how it can really, really help. Other oils that would be this way that you could smell would be citrus oils. Citrus oils are uplifting. Okay, so if you struggle with feeling down, feeling depressed, feeling sad, citrus oils are great. And I want you to think about citrus trees. Think about citrus trees. Where is the fruit that we get the oil from? Up, right? So think about reaching up into the tree to get the essential oil, right? And that's what it does for your emotions. We reach up, and the essential oils uplift the emotions. So I love that visual of how it works. All right, so number one, you can shift your mood, and that's through smell. Number two, you can stimulate self-repair. All right, so this is using them topically. All right, so I'm going to show you a little exercise and show you what I mean by this. I'm going to talk just a little bit about it, but let's say breathe. Okay, let's use breathe. And breathe is an oil that can really help people with emotional grief. Okay, now we think about it as being used for respiratory issues, but it is great for emotional grief. Okay, because it is, what do you do when you are grieving? You can't breathe, right? You're tightening up, right? Everything is closing up because you can't allow too much emotions. It's painful, right? And breathe allows you to open up and to be able to release emotions. So breathe can be applied over the three brains. Okay, so if you are grieving over whatever it is, okay, first of all, you have to recognize the emotion that you're experiencing. Okay, I'm grieving, I'm sad. Get your breathe, and number one, apply it over the first brain. Okay, so and let me hold on one second. I've got some notes on this. I want to make sure I don't forget what I'm saying here. Y'all should see my desk. I've got about 10 pages of notes here. Okay, so you apply it across the brain, and as you're doing it, you want to reframe this negative thought. Okay, now I know that grief, you can't make it go away. I'm not saying you can make grief go away, but when you continually experience grief and you're getting a headache from it, okay, you're not letting it go, you're not processing it. You have a choice when you have an emotion to either repress it or to process it. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to help you do, is process an emotion. Okay, it's okay to acknowledge, you know what, I'm grieving. I really miss that person, or I'm sad that relationship was broken, or whatever it is, and allow your brain to process it. Okay, it's got to process it. Now, when it gets to your heart, this is when we start getting into the feeling of the emotion, because now your heart is going to discern the emotion. Okay, what am I going to do with that feeling of sadness? Okay, what is a comforting thought that you can have about it while you're rubbing the oil over your heart? Okay, and it's different for each person, but what is a positive thing? What is a verse of scripture? What is a positive memory, right? What is something good that can come out of this? And that's hard to think about sometimes, but honestly, this is what you're doing. You're processing. Okay, and you're allowing those chemicals to go in and send those cells different messages. So rub it over your heart. And then now you're going to have a reaction in the gut. Okay, you thought it, you felt it, and now you're going to have a reaction in the gut. So take that oil and rub it over the gut. Okay, so what you've done is you're creating a new pathway for a new type of emotion, right? I did this the other day and I was amazed. Okay, I was having this overwhelm, anxiety feeling all about this moving and all these things, you know, and I'm having these thoughts and I'm like, stop. I go and got my balance and I reframed the thought. Okay, I'm really anxious about moving and I don't know how I'm going to get all this done. I don't know how all this is going to work out, you know, all this. And then I rubbed it over my heart. And I'm memorizing a verse right now that says that the Lord will guide me. Okay. And so I quoted that verse as I was rubbing it over my heart. And then I rubbed it over my stomach. I calmed down so quickly. It was amazing. And so what I'm trying to do is create a new groove in my brain, right? So that I can begin to think differently. Y'all, this won't happen by accident. You have to be intentional about this because unfortunately we are negative creatures and we tend to go to negative thoughts very easily, right? That's the way that we are made. We are just negative creatures. We go to the negative. So you want to start going to the positive. So, and you guys, y'all can post questions in here if you think of them, and we'll get to those in just a minute. But so I want to tell you some other areas that you can rub essential oils with your emotions to also help with your emotions. So when you rub an oil in the back of your neck, right at these divots that are on the either side of your spine, it goes directly into your brain stem. So you do not have to rub over your forehead. You also can rub in those divots right there, and it will go right into the brainstem and into the central nervous system. Just like smelling an oil immediately goes into your central nervous system, you could rub it right there as well. If you particularly struggle with anxiety, I learned a new pressure point for anxiety, and it is right here inside the elbow. Okay, so underneath, I don't know if y'all can see this, but this point right here where my elbow bends, so right above, right here, this is a pressure point for anxiety. And a lot of, if you ever go to an acupuncturist and you're struggling with anxiety, they'll put a needle right here. And I don't know how it works. I don't understand it all, but I know that that's one of the points for it. So when you're struggling with that, put the oil right there, right? And again, reframe the thought, right? Because that's where the root of it is, right? It's in our thought process. But rub the oil there. Let's see. The inside of the wrist is also a great place to rub the oils when you're experiencing emotions. Topically right here. This is really close. Your veins are really close to the surface. Most of the time, most people can see veins right there at your wrist. Okay. Also, another place is they talked about the fleshy pockets behind your ears. Okay. So where you have a little bit more flesh there on the back, you can rub it right in those areas right there. And they say that that's really good for emotions. Okay. Now I'm taking advice from experts. I don't know exactly all the answers to exactly how that works, but this is their recommendations. Okay. All right. So you can use essential oils to shift your mood, to stimulate self-repair. And then number 3, you can use them to balance chemical emotions. Okay. Or chemical reactions, excuse me, balance chemical reactions. So remember that when you're having these thoughts and things, that it's creating a chemical reaction in the body, which produces a physical reaction in the body. So we want to counteract that. So one of the oils they recommend is On Guard. So On Guard is called the protective blend. Okay. So it protects us physically against, you know, seasonal threats. I'm trying to think of a compliant way to say this. It boosts your immune function, okay? On Guard, and that's what we use it for. But emotionally, it can help us protect with emotional boundaries, okay? So if you struggle with that, having emotional boundaries with different people, On Guard can help with that because of where the oils grow from and you know where they are in creation, whatever. So using your On Guard in this way, right, through those thought processes to rub over the 3 brains when you're having that can help if that's an issue that you struggle with. So you also can take these oils internally to balance chemical reactions within the body. Like if you're not even for sure exactly what is going on, you can use them internally and the body will use them as needed. okay, to help those processes. So those are just a few oils you can use. I want to talk just for a minute about the emotional aromatherapy blends. Have you guys been using these? So these are Motivate, Cheer, Passion, Console, Forgive, and Peace. Okay? So if you have not seen this emotional wheel, okay, this is the emotional wheel. And on this wheel, it has different emotions listed on it. So what you can do is if you have the wheel, you can look at the wheel and say, wow, I'm feeling really sad and angry. And you can look at the oil that is closest to that and use that oil to help process these emotions, okay? So if you do not have this wheel, if you have the doTERRA Daily Drop app, you can pull up, there's a little section on it called Determine Your Mood in the settings. And if you'll go to that, you can actually use the wheel with your finger and it will tell you which oil to use. Then click on that oil and then it'll tell you how to apply it and what to do with it, okay? So that's a free app. It's called doTERRA Daily Drop. Highly recommend that you use that. But I want to talk to you just a little bit about these. So if you're using, for instance, Motivate, that's the encouraging blend, okay? This is made up of mints and citruses, and it helps to increase confidence and courage and unleash creativity. All right, now I'm diffusing it right now. I diffuse it as I work all day in the office, and I love it. I feel like I can get fresh ideas. It just helps me. These are mints and citruses. You can imagine how invigorating and how uplifting both of those are. I love it. There are two oils in these wheels that had some really, really fantastic results. They did a study in a major medical center that was an integrative center where they're treating cancer patients with both traditional and holistic methods. And it's a very large center here in the United States. And they did a 9-month study with these emotional aromatherapy blends, and they used them just on the medical professional teams. So if you can imagine, if you're working in this environment, what are you experiencing all the time? Compassion fatigue, right? Burnout, frustration. You want to help these people. I can't even imagine seeing these patients, you know, day in and day out and how they're feeling with this. But a lot of them were struggling with this. So they took these oils and they diffused different oils, and they would take a survey at the end of each process of diffusing the oils, and they would rate how much had their frustration gone down, their anger, their compassion fatigue, all these different things. They had all these questions. There were two oils that they were the top two most statistically significant improvements, okay? And they specifically were improvements in positive feelings, work productivity, and work-related stress, okay? They were Forgive and Cheer. Forgive is of pine oils, okay? Now this is a tree. Now you picture a tree in creation, okay? It's grounded, right? It's not easily blown over, right? But it's not rigid. When the wind blows, what does the top of the tree do? It sways, right? So people are grounded, but they're not rigid. And you can imagine how that affects us stress level wise, right? We don't want to be uptight, right? But we also don't want to be all floppy, right? And easily blown away or blown over. So Forgive's really good for that. Cheer is primarily made up of citruses. And the citruses, again, are uplifting. And what are most of these people feeling? Down a lot of the times, right? Trying to figure out solutions and all these things. So Cheer is a great option for that. So anyway, all of the oils showed improvement, but those two in particular showed great results in all of those areas that they tested in. So, and I believe if I understood the study correctly, Forgive had 100% improvement. So really great. Okay. So other than essential oils, here are some other practical things that you can do to influence your emotions. Okay. Number one, sleep hygiene. You say, what in the world's that? Okay. Sleep hygiene is knowing when to go to bed and knowing when to get up. And getting proper rest can have a huge impact on your emotions. So sleep hygiene refers to if you can get your body on a regular cycle of going to bed at the same time and getting up at the same time, you'll have great results. My functional medicine doctor taught me that your hormones will reset themselves in the night, but not if you go to bed after 10:30. For some reason, 10:30 is like this breaking point where if you go to bed after that, then your hormones all the next day, they have not reset themselves. And so you're going to struggle. So I find I feel so good when I can set that 10 or 10:30 bedtime and then always get up 6:30 on the same time. And I'm having that same sleep cycle all the time. Number two, there is a gut-brain connection. Okay. So eating a good diet and making sure that you're eating probiotics, right? Getting probiotics, and that can either be through the form of fermented foods or a good probiotic like the PB Assist or the PB Assist Junior, but getting good bacteria in the gut so that it functions properly and feeds the brain properly. Number three, exercise. Now, I know I don't have to tell any of you all this, but there are numerous studies on how that the exercise floods the brain with dopamine and with endorphins, okay? Did you know that this is especially true in the morning light? Now, I know not everybody likes to exercise in the morning, but if you exercise, yep, got my fitness trainer up there. So if you exercise in the morning light, it helps to reset your sleep cycle, okay? And some people say, oh my word, I just can't do it. I can't do it that long. Can you do 5 to 10 minutes a day? 5 to 10 minutes a day. You can honestly start seeing an improvement in your health just with that, okay? Number 4, challenge your negative thoughts. Don't allow them to sit there. Challenge them, right? Identify them and begin to reframe them. And we've talked about this throughout the class, but you've got to be able to do this. I would challenge you to look up some articles about reframing your thoughts. If you're having a hard time coming up with what would be a positive thought, if you've been in this rut a long time, it's hard sometimes to think of what thought should I be thinking, right? Get some help. Ask a friend. Ask your spouse, or look up some ideas online. And then number 5, get sunlight. Sunlight has a huge impact on your mood, okay? They talk about if you cannot get out into the sunlight, if you're a person that is just indoors a lot and for whatever reason you can't get out into the sun, or let's say that you live in an area of the country where there's not a lot of sunlight, you can purchase what's called lux lights. They're called 10,000 lux, L-U-X lights. And they mimic the sunlight, and you can sit in front of them for 10 to 30 minutes a day, and they actually work to produce those serotonin and melatonin effects in the body to actually help improve mood. So you can look for those on Amazon and other places. I have some friends that are looking into that, okay? Did you know that light is much more effective than antidepressants? This is proven in scientific studies. 12 to 18 inches away from the lux light for 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at night can have a humongous impact on your health, okay? So there's just some other practical ideas. I don't know how many of you are good at meditating. I know for many years I tried to, like, every time somebody would say meditate, I was like, that sounds like something Middle Eastern-y that I'm not supposed to be doing. But the Bible talks a lot about meditation. So what you are meditating on is, of course, very important, okay? That we're not just clearing our mind and having empty thoughts, right? But that we are meditating on, the Bible says, what is pure, what is lovely, what is good, what is of honest report, what is true, we're thinking on those things. But if you'll take time during the day, I am so not good at this. I'm just going to tell you, okay? So I'm a go, right? I've got to get that cortisol and all that stuff going, right? That's driving me. And so I have a hard time just stopping and resting. But I have found that stopping and just being able to quiet my mind and meditate on something that is true, right? All these other things are coming at me throughout the day, but if I can just do that, even for 5 to 10 minutes a day, I can't even tell you the impact that it's having on me. So they've even done studies on people that are in the workforce, when they will take time to stop and do these things 5 to 10 minutes a day. And I'm not even talking about necessary spiritual, but they're meditating and stopping to think on their goals and the future, what it is that they want to accomplish, and they're visualizing and those things, that those people are 60% more productive. So take time, right, to meditate. I love, like Suzanne is sitting outside. I would love to be sitting right where she is right now. Like, it looks so beautiful out there, but being able to just look at the things that God has made and just meditating on that, right? The wonders of the creation, and looking and thinking and getting out all the distractions, right, that are coming at us all of the time, can have a huge impact on your emotional health. So, okay. And I think that is the end. Let me make sure that and I want to just say this: consistency and small applications frequently. That is the biggest thing I can tell you. Okay. So if you're just going to try this once and you're like, hey, it didn't work for me. No, it's consistency and small applications frequently. Just because an oil works doesn't mean you need to use 10 drops of it at a time to get the results that you want. Use a drop, and then in a couple hours, use a drop, and in a couple hours, use a drop, right? And start getting on a consistent pattern with it, and then you'll really start to see good results. So, okay, who has questions? If you want to unmute yourselves, you can ask questions now, or you can type them in, whichever you're more comfortable with. Okay, what is best for sense of well-being? Okay, meaning just thinking positively, or how would you describe that? Okay. So there's actually numerous ones that you can try. The number one recommendation is frankincense. And I'm going to tell you this right now, that the top two recommendations are probably our most expensive oils. Okay. But they are just so powerful. Frankincense is one. Melissa is the second one. So there's scientific study out there done on, they did a study on people in a nursing home, and a lot of them were experiencing loss of memory and anxious feelings over the loss of memory. So they're extremely anxious about these feelings. And they diffused Melissa oil in the nursing home for these elderly patients. And the results were astounding at how much more less anxious these people were feeling, even though, yeah, it wasn't giving them their memory back, right? But that they were less anxious over those thoughts, because that's something that really a lot of people experience. But what I can tell you is diffusing, absolutely, to improve mood. The second thing would be topically, and what they recommend is putting a drop of frankincense, and if you have Melissa, putting a drop on your thumb, and then pressing to the roof of your mouth. So there's a pressure point right there that runs to the brain, and you can get it in the brain very quickly. So you would just hold it there. They say hold it for 10 seconds and do this in the morning and at night. Now, this is something to do very consistently, but they've had some pretty amazing results with that, with people doing that. Again, they also recommend getting out into the sunlight. And I did not talk about this, but obviously your diet is important. And if you're not taking a really good dose of the omegas, the things that feed the brain, that is going to also inhibit that sense of well-being. So you really need good omegas in there that give good fats and things to the brain. So that would be my recommendation. I love that you have Motivate and Cheer. Those are actually two oils that are great for that. So definitely applying them on the elbows here, on the wrist, in the back of the neck. Those can be very helpful as well. It takes time. It honestly takes time. It isn't something that's going to happen overnight. You've got to know that if you could just picture your brain physically, you've got ruts, right? This is years of whatever, right, that have been created there, and it takes time to create new ones. But it can be done. It's been proven it can be done. They've shown pictures of the brain, and it's almost a visual representation of the grooves that are there and how people with different thought patterns can create new ones. So you can. It's Bible talks about taking our thoughts captive, and it's hard work, you know. But essential oils can help tremendously because of their chemical, components.
Will this be shareable?
I will send you a link, and you can share it with someone. If you want to share the link with someone, you can. Please don't post it on social media. I'm doing this I want people to register with me. I want to be able to get their information and follow up and connect with them. So, but if you want to share it privately with someone, yes, you may.
It'll be Courtney.
So anybody who registered, I will send you an email with the link so that you can view the recording.
Okay.
Okay.
I was going to share it with Courtney, so she's already
Yeah.
with you.
Okay. Yeah. Anytime when I'm going to start doing these webinars twice a month. So if you see them posted and you want to register on them, and if you register, you will get the email, even if you can't be on it live. I know I have some people that work, but went ahead and registered so they could get the recording. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And I hope that I've added value to your life, and that you will get more out of your oils, right? And prayers to all of you that are struggling emotionally. And it's tough, right? But there is hope, and there is help out there, right? So keep searching, keep looking, keep trying new things. And God bless you all.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.